part where we're going to hear from Natalie Taylor, who's originally from Melbourne, Australia, but lives now in Jerusalem. And she took upon herself the challenge of speaking about this Masechet, even though it was not the easiest to be learning. So, Natalie.
Hi, Erev Tov. A few weeks ago, Rabbanit Michelle contacted me and asked if I could share some reflections on Masechet Zevachim. I didn't respond right away, not because I wasn't honored by the request, but because Zevachim has been, with question, the hardest Masechet for me to understand and to connect to. It's difficult technically, it's dense, it's repetitive, and perhaps most challenging of all, it seems so far removed from our lived religious experience. We don't bring korbanot, we don't stand in the azara, we don't smell the smoke of the mizbeach or watch the avodah unfold. So, when asked to reflect on Zevachim, my honest reaction was, what do I possibly have to say? Later that same evening, I opened Jonathan Haidt's book, The Anxious Generation. I had no intention of finding an answer to Zevachim there, but sometimes the right texts find us at the right moment. The passage I read that night felt almost uncannily relevant. Haidt, drawing on the work of the sociologist Emil Durkheim, described the distinction between the profane and the sacred. Durkheim argued that most of our lives are spent in the realm of the profane, the ordinary, day-to-day world where we are focused on ourselves, our needs, our productivity, our anxieties, our status, our health. But nearly all societies across time and culture create rituals and communal practices that lift people out of that realm temporarily and bring them into the sacred, a space where the self recedes and something larger takes precedence. Religions do this by marking certain times, like Shabbat and festivals, certain places, temples and shrines, and certain objects as sacred. They are set apart and protected. And Haidt notes something that we know intrinsically. The Hebrew word kadosh literally means set apart. So reading this, it felt like a reminder of what lies at the heart of Masechet Zevachim, and perhaps of the heart of the religious life itself, the human impulse to elevate the profane into the sacred. Tonight, I want to share my struggle to connect to Zevachim through the concept of pigul, and how that struggle unexpectedly opened a door for me. I want to suggest that pigul, one of the most technical and abstract topics in this Masechet, may actually speak powerfully to our lives today, in a world saturated with technology, AI, constant stimulation, and relentless distraction. A world that constantly challenges our kavanah, our presence, our mindfulness, and our ability to truly focus. Rav Amnon Bazak, in an article on Parshat Tzav titled The Law of Pigul, the plain meaning and the halachic meaning, helped me articulate a distinction that clarified so much of my confusion. He distinguishes between the pshat of the Torah verses and the complex halachic world that Chazal built upon them, the world we spent so many hours grappling with in Zevachim. According to the Torah in Vayikra, the basic idea of pigul seems straightforward. Sacrifices must be eaten within a designated time, one day or two, depending on the korban. Anything left over on the third day must be burned. If someone eats from the meat after that time, the act is a serious transgression, punishable by karet. In the plain sense of the text, pigul appears to be about what happens, an action performed at the wrong time. But Chazal radically interpret this. According to the Rambam, pigul is not about eating on the third day at all. It is about intention. If at the moment of the avodah, during the shchita, the kabbalat hadam, or the sprinkling, the person intended to eat the meat outside its permitted time, the korban becomes pigul immediately. Even if, in practice, no one ever eats it late, even if everything else is done flawlessly. By contrast, if the korban was bought with proper intention and later some meat remained uneaten, that meat becomes notar. Eating notar is forbidden, but the korban itself was valid and achieved its purpose. This shift is astonishing. The Torah speaks in the language of actions and outcomes, while Chazal move the entire weight of the law into the realm of thought. What matters most is not what eventually happens, but what was in the person's mind at the critical moment. Rav Bazak shows how this tension between action and intention plays out again and again in Masechet Zevachim. And this is where, for me, the Masechet began to open up. What seemed like an endless technical debate suddenly felt like something else entirely, a sustained meditation on human consciousness. The prophets, too, are deeply concerned with intention, but from a different angle. They criticize ritual not because it is meaningless, but because it can be emptied of sincerity. Shmuel's words to Shaul echo loudly here. Does God delight in burnt offerings as much as obedience? Surely obedience is better than sacrifice. The message is not anti-ritual, it is actually anti-hollow ritual. And this brings us to kavanah. In Zevachim, we learned that even a perfectly executed korban can fail if the inner orientation is flawed. Precision alone does not generate holiness. The act must be accompanied by awareness. Ritual is not performance, it is an encounter. Rav Eliyahu Dessler in Michtav Me'Eliyahu describes the human mind as a field, fertile but vulnerable. Left unattended, it becomes overgrown with distractions, anxieties, and noise. Only sustained attention allows that field to produce growth. Kavanah, for Rav Dessler, is not just about prayer. It is about reclaiming agency over where our consciousness lives. Chabad teachings express this beautifully as well. Korbanot are not ancient rituals frozen in time. They are models for inner avodah. The physical act mirrors an internal process, refining desire, directing thought, aligning actions with purpose. Without that inner movement, nothing truly happens. Seen in this way, Masechet Zevachim is not distant from us at all. It is deeply contemporary. We live in an age where attention is constantly fragmented. Our devices train us to think in half thoughts, to be present everywhere and nowhere at once. Intention is diluted, presence is rare, and perhaps that is why learning a Masechet that insists relentlessly on intention feels so uncomfortable. It demands something that we in this day and age are unaccustomed to giving. The painstaking arguments over pigul may not be about korbanot alone. Perhaps they are training exercises for the neshama. Hours spent debating a single thought at a single moment are themselves an act of resistance against a culture of distraction. Zevachim teaches us that holiness is fragile. It can be undone not only by what we do, but how we think while doing it. And it teaches us that elevating the profane into the sacred requires effort, discipline, and attention. In that sense, Masechet Zevachim is not about a lost temple past. It is about a present challenge, how to live with kavanah in a world that constantly pulls us away from it. If we can bring even a fraction of that awareness into our prayer, our learning, and our relationships, then perhaps we too can create moments of shared sacredness, moments where the self recedes and something higher comes into focus. Thank you and Mazal Tov.